All right, fellas, as I promised, here's the crankshaft. I'm gonna give it a little spin. Oh yeah, oh yeah, like butter, like butter. Yeah. So now I got my pistons back from the shop, so I'm gonna re-ring them, and then I'm going to put them in. I got the connecting rod ARP bolts pressed in and fit, and then they rebored to the correct space, or to the correct spec. And they also cleaned up the sides here. So if you're in the Knoxville area, go to B&R Automotive and Diesel Machine Shop. It's over on Chapman Highway. They do great work. Ask for Bill of B&R. So, yeah. I'll see y'all in a bit. All right, so I'm gonna walk you guys through the process of gapping your piston rings. So basically what we're gonna do is you're gonna take your piston ring and you're gonna bring it to your cylinder, and you're gonna put it in just ever so slightly like this, so it's snug in there. And then you're gonna take your cylinder, or your piston, sorry, and you're gonna press the ring down until you get to the sleeves of the piston like that. Nice and flat, snug in there. Pull it out very gently. You're gonna get your feeler gauge, this, and the spec on the 2.3 is 15 thousandths to 23 thousandths. But since I'm gonna be pushing boost, I'm gonna have a bit more of a gap, and so I'm shooting for 26 thousandths, which also happens to just be what the pistons were when they came out of the box. Or the piston rings were when they came out of the box. But 3 and 4 were a little bit narrower, so I am gapping the rings to be 26 thousandths in both of these. I already did cylinder 3 piston rings, and now I'm just gonna go through this and show y'all how to do it. So I've got 22, 24, 25, and 26 here. So I'm gonna try the 22. It should just be 22. You're gonna slide that in there. If you feel no resistance all the way to the wall, you're good, right? 24. And you can barely, you get caught right at the end there. So it's probably 23 and a half or so. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that and file it down and until I get to 26. So I'll show you that in just a second. All right, so I've got a pretty fine file here. I've got it snug up in a vise, and what you're gonna do, take your ring like this, press together around the file, and you're just gonna pull it towards yourself. And you're gonna do that a bunch of times, over and over again. It's a pretty lengthy process. What I've been doing is giving it like 6 or 7 pulls on this thing, and then taking it back to the cylinder, test fitting it again, and then going again if it doesn't need to, or if I need more width. So I'm gonna do one more here, and I'm gonna go test it again. All right, so after shaving it down, I'm going to go ahead and place it in here. And I'll also mention, you'll want to deburr the edges of the ring where you just filed it, just so you don't scratch the inside of the cylinder wall there. So there we go, I gave it a few swipes. Now I'm gonna try 24 again. It should go in a lot easier to the wall. 25. Now it's snug at 25. It'll touch the wall, but you gotta force it. And then for 26, it probably just won't even go. Yeah, it goes about 3/4 of the way. So gonna give it another little pass through. Probably 5 more swipes on the file, and then deburr the edges again. You really want to focus on the outside portions of the ring that'll be in contact with the wall, and then also these flat parts here at the top and bottom of it. So we're gonna go ahead and hit the file again, and then what you're gonna do to kind of deburr it, what I've been doing is just taking it on the edge like this and hitting it very carefully, ever so softly, knocking that edge off of the thing there. And do that on the other side as well. The outside of the ring is more important than the inside of the ring, but just because I want to do it, I'm going to hit all the edges. So the inside here, just knock that burr off. And then the top and bottom of it. And then to test it, what I've been doing is taking my shirt like this, you rub it on the both sides. If you feel any catching, that means you gotta keep on the file. So that's fine. I'll take it back and put it back in. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and put these rings on. We have, to start, the oil ring. And so what's important about this one is when you're putting it on, you don't want these two end pieces to overlap at all. You don't want any of that. You want them just to touch, right? And so this one's pretty loose. You can just take it around, put it on like that. You'll see they're just touching. Then you have your holder rings. I can separate them. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna go ahead and find where that was. It's right here. You're gonna take your thumb, you're gonna press that bottom one to the bottom groove there, if it'll go. Okay, yep. So it slid in there. And then you're just gonna follow along the outside. This one's pretty thin and flexible, so you can let it go a little bit. And you grab it so it doesn't scratch the side of the surface. You can see that. You can grab it like that and then plop it in there. You see how it overlapped though? You don't want that. So you're gonna try and pull this out. Oh, it's pretty tight. I'm gonna try if I can just push it. There you go. So I just pushed the oil bit back and then it slid right in. The other one, do the same exact way. Thumb in, slot that in the top part now, and then go ahead and grab it, put it all the way through and around, and just fall right in. You'll know you've done it right if you can freely rotate it without any grabbing. Next, we'll do the second ring. And on most piston rings, you'll have an indentation right there. That means go to the top of the piston, right? So I'm gonna install it with that dot facing up. So I'm gonna grab it here, grab the ring like that. It's a little bit difficult to do with just your two hands, but I found a method that can work pretty well. If you have nicer things than this, it'll be helpful, but you're gonna wanna press in there, and you're gonna wanna press against it with your other fingers so that it doesn't fall out of the pliers. And then you're just gonna go down and slot right in there. I forgot to mention that on this second ring, it has a bevel, and if you put the dot up, it'll be fine, but the bevel on the second ring faces downwards. Now for the top ring, same thing. It's got that mark on there. You're gonna keep that up. Same exact process. Hold the piston, hold the ring, spread it with the tool. push against it with your other finger. There you go. That is one complete piston. All right, everybody. Big whoopsie. I learned just now that you're not supposed to oil or lube the inside of these bearings, like the outside of the bearings for the main caps, because I was about to put the bearings in on my pistons, or on my bolts, or rod bolts, or rod bearings, and I found out that it's supposed to be a dry fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this can of xylene, a rag. I'm going to go through each of these, clean out the mating surface between these, and then clean the other side of the bearing as well. That way I have a totally dry fit in between the mating surfaces. So I'm going to do all that and then retorque everything, and then put the crank back in, and I'm just going to redo this whole process of doing all the bolts and everything. So thank you. Bear with me. Forgot to mention that along with these, the inside of these, I'm also going to go to the main caps, clean off this surface, the mating surface here and here. So I'm going to make sure those are totally dry, then put them back together. Same with all the other ones. The only lubricated surface should be the inside of the bearing, the side that connects to the crank. All right, so I cleaned all the inner surfaces of the block and then the outer surface of the bearing. So now it's a dry fit. Make sure it's a dry fit. I put the crank back on. I also cleaned off these mating surfaces here because there is some lube that had squeezed through onto those. So those are cleaned off, now dry as well. Now I just got to clean the inside of the main caps and then also the bearings here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll be back with you. I also want to mention that I am cleaning this mating surface as well. And then before I put all this on, I'm going to put just another tiny dollop of lube here on the crank, just in case any of the lube that's on the inner side came off. I just want to make sure that it'll still be nice and smooth. All right, so I've got everything seated now, all cleaned, all done up again. So now I'm going to torque it back to spec. When I was pulling the nuts off, some of the studs came up instead. That's okay. As long as you take your Allen, 5mm by the way, you take your Allen and you just tighten that sucker down. As long as you're using studs, get nice and snug. It'll look like it's not, like it might be getting stopped by this thing right here, but as long as there's threads pulling threads, it should be just fine. So I'm gonna get this torqued to spec, just like in the first video. You kind of do it like you're doing head bolts, except for you do these last after you test the, I forget what it's called, but this motion, the back and forth, just because of the thrust bearing. So 30, 60, 90, star pattern, back and forth, working your way out. I'll put a picture up here in a minute, but here you go. Alrighty, all torqued down, spinning like a dream. No obvious scratching or scraping noises, so should be good to go. Now I can do the pistons. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, now it's gonna get really messy. So I put the bearings in to this one, right? And I lubed the inside here. Now what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna soak the piston head in some oil, get all those rings nice and lubricated, all right? And then you're going to get a ring compressor and the tightening tool. What you're gonna do, you're gonna put your piston inside that. You're gonna compress those rings, and then you're gonna start putting it in. So on every piston, on the top, well, not every piston, but pistons will have a marker for which way is forward. So this one has a nice little arrow. It'll point towards the front of the engine. So you know it'll go in like this, right? Also, these pistons, out of the 2, 3, they have labeled on here, you see that little etching, the stamp. See that 3? So that means cylinder 3, or piston 3 goes in cylinder 3. So we have 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 at the front, 4 at the back. Before you install this, you want to have little rubber hoses or something to cover your connecting rod bolts so they don't scratch the inside of the cylinder. And next thing, you're going to want your crankshaft to be all the way at the bottom. I want your journals to be very, 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 very bottom. So turn your crankshaft from here until you reach bottom dead center, I guess you would call that. And then I will go ahead and set this up and show you me installing it. All right, so messy part begins. You're gonna take your piston, drain out all this extra oil, because that's just gonna add to the nastiness. Let it all drip out. You've got a good coating on there, you're fine. Go ahead and place this in here. Now you're gonna wanna make sure your spring compressor is flat against this. You don't want anything sticking out from the bottom or the top, all right? And then you're gonna go ahead and tighten that sucker up. All right, nice and tight. The bottom is flat there. So you can go ahead. Arrow is pointing this way. So I'm going to slowly but surely place it on there. Start tip tap with the mallet. Make sure your skirts. So it might be easier like this. Get your skirts to come out a little bit. You'll see your skirts there. That way you can line it up perfectly, because you do not want to hit the top of the surface, the head surface with the skirts. And then give it some taps. Alright, you've got past all your rings, so now you're going to look below, make sure you're still lined up here, keep tapping through until it won't go any further. Alright. So now, what you can do, turn this over. Right. Pop these rubber caps off. Now with the ARPs, you're going to want to put, it's all oily, put assembly lube on the nuts and the bolts. I've already done that. Oh, sorry, you got to put your actual cap on first. That would help. Grab your cap, make sure you lubricate the inside. You're going to line up the numbers on here. So I showed you the numbers that were stamped on. Now line those up. Plop that sucker on there. Boom. Give it a quick tap to get it seated. Now, you're going to go ahead and thread these nuts on, and you're going to torque it in 2 stages, 25 foot-pounds and then 40 foot-pounds. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. There we go. Grease off. There's my thing. I'm finding my socket. Put it. The socket is a where did it go? Oh, it's a half-inch socket. And for the life of me, I just cannot find it right now. I don't know what I do with it. I'll be right back after I locate this socket. Okay, found it. It's we'll focus here. Whatever. Half-inch, there you go. Get the focus back on there. All right, now, get your torque wrench. That sucker to tighten. And go down to 25 foot-pounds. Very simple. All right. I hit this once. Click. Click. You're going to take it up to 40, which is the spec for the ARP connecting rod bolts. And click. And click. Now you're safe to give this a little rotate. Make sure it goes up and through. And rotate a few times. Get the oil up on through the cylinder. Alright. Make sure there's no binding or scratching or scraping. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and prep for cylinder 3, getting the journals like this. And I'm going to repeat that process 3 more times, and we'll be good to go. Alrighty, so got all 4 cylinders in. I'm going to go ahead and crank this. You can see the action here. Use my right hand here. I'll turn it over real quick and I'll show you the other side. All right. Oh, well. All right, so what I use to crank it is just a big old socket and some fuel line jammed in there, just because I didn't want to have to cut this socket. It's a little bit bigger than the end right here, so just put the fuel line in there and use the hammer mallet to tap it on. Lets me rotate this pretty freely. Now obviously I'm going to clean up the whole head surface before I put the head gasket on or anything, but that will come after oil pump and oil pan. So the next thing y'all will see me do is that. For now, that's all for me today. So I will catch up with y'all later.